Now we need to actually make it easier to get to the cart. Now this button right here hasn't worked since we started working on the cart, so let's go ahead and get that working. And then let's also update the item number, or this number in here, of how many items that are actually in the cart. So to do this, the first thing that we're going to do is the easy part, which is updating the navbar. So we'll go to navbar.html, and we're just going to look for the cart badge itself. So that's this right here. And we're going to go in here, and instead of ahref being just hashtag, we're going to use URL, double quotes, cart, double quotes, end, refresh, and now if we click on it, it actually takes us to the cart. What a concept. So the badge, as far as the icon is concerned, the number, we're going to add an ID here, and we're going to set it equal to cart count badge. So more than likely, you're not going to have another ID on anywhere on your site called the cart count badge, but if you did, you would just change it to class, and you would use class instead of what we're going to be doing is ID. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and now I'm going to make some JavaScript that's going to go everywhere on this cart count badge. Before I do that, I'm going to create a new view, and it's going to be a very simple one, and we're going to call it class, and it's going to be item count view, and it's just going to be a view, and we're going to take in a request. So define get self request and args and keyword args, and then we're basically going to return HTTP 404 if it's not an AJAX request. So if request.isAJAX, return some HTTP JSON response. So I'll just do JSON response, and for now I'll just give a number. So count equals to 10, and then else we'll raise HTTP 404. So this item count view is literally to get the cart item count itself. So we're going to go into our URLs here on our main project. So let's go into e-commerce 2 URLs and import this new one, item count view. And all we're going to do here is we're going to copy the cart, paste it below, and just do count. And we'll call it item underscore count and item count as view. So if we go in here and do cart count, we should get this page 404 not found, which is exactly what we want to see. So now we want to do some AJAX. So to do some AJAX, there's a few different ways on how we're going to do it. First off, we're going to test it inside of our JavaScript file. So I'll do script, and I'll say document ready function, and then close off that script. And all we'll do here is we want to get the navbar item, which we called it cart count badge, back into our JavaScript. So we're going to be using this at some point. And I'll say var badge equals to that. And then we'll do some AJAX. So AJAX function, and oops, not function, just curly brackets here. And at the type doesn't exactly matter. We're going to call it a get, because really it's going to be getting the information for us. So it doesn't need to post data at all. URL is going to be our new URL, which is item underscore count. So URL, put it into quotes first, and then URL single quote, item count. And then we'll just say success function data, and we will get this stuff. So let's get the badge. We'll say badge.text is equal to data.count. And then we'll do error is going to be a function as well. Function response and error console log response console log error. All right, so let's refresh, and we see now it says 10 because our view says 10. Perfect. So that basically means that we actually have it working. So to do this, to fix it, that is, to actually get the stuff from the cart, we are going to come in here and get the cart item. So if cart ID equals to none, then count is equal to 0. Else, count equals to 10. We will obviously calculate that count in a second, but let's just put count in here as a variable, refresh in here, and we got an invalid syntax on line 19. We want to do equals equals, not just 1 equals. Let's refresh that. All right, so it's coming through as 10, because it's not none, because this session actually does have an ID. So if I log in and log out, now it doesn't, so it has 0. Perfect. So since we do have a cart in here, if it is not none, right? So if it's the opposite, we want to get that cart, just as we have before, using the cart ID, same deal. And now we'll just do cart.items.all, and that's going to give the count of the items. It's not going to give how many of each item, it's just going to give the number of items that are actually in there. So we'll refresh, we actually have nothing. So we go here, water bottle, add to cart, and we've got a subtotal issue coming in, which is good. It's good to see this because we don't actually have a default for it. So if we go to models, cart subtotal, we will just say default equals to $25, just to set a default. And even though it will be set afterwards, right? So after it's saved, so pre-saved, it will do all the line total stuff. Post-save, it will update the subtotal. So that's where that came in. Of course, if we did pre-save, it would save that problem in general. Now we've got this in here. Well, we're still not seeing a cart ID total. So let's see why. So I'll console log data.count. Because really, every single time we do a new request, that AJAX call should be going. And we've got a 500 error here. And the error is saying it has no attribute item. And it doesn't. So if we go back into our view, notice it says cart object has no attribute item. Right, so this will also show the entire error too. So if you wanted to see the response text, you could print it out inside of the here. Inside of response, you could print out response.text, refresh, and this shows you all of that response text that's going on here, which is what Django is sending back. So let's change it back to just response. Go back into our view, and this should be not item, but items because of our model. Cart items. There we go. Refresh. And we still got another one. And notice it says all. That's not what we want either. We want a count. And finally, we refresh, and now it's going to show us that count. All right, so the bad thing here is if I refresh, notice it flickers kind of what the count is. So what we want to do is go back into our view, and inside of this get call, we actually want to set the count in the session as well. So we'll do request.session, and we'll set a count here. So we'll say item count is equal to count, or we'll just say cart item count. So this session right here is going to be either count or nothing. So we'll set that either way. We want to set that count. So we're setting in two places. Then in our navbar, we'll go back in here, and in the badge we'll say if request.session.cart item. Actually, we don't even need the if. We could just do cart item count from the request.session. You could put an if there, but we actually don't need it because right off the bat it's going to set it for us. So if I refresh in here, now it doesn't flicker the numbers. It's going to stay as the numbers. So the main part here too is if this item count is in there, then we don't have to actually run the call every single time for the AJAX, but the AJAX only runs one time, so it's not that big of a deal. The only time that it would actually make a difference is when we add new cart items. So if I click on this water bottle and add a new item to the cart. Quantity has been updated successfully. That's not what we want. Let's add an item to the cart. Successfully added to the cart. We don't see the cart actually change. So the cart number didn't actually change here. So that's also where we might want to have our call here go multiple times. So I'm going to make a function in here called update cart item count. And all this is going to do is run that function. So update cart item count. And then we'll want to use this same sort of thing here. We're going to want to use this inside of our other call. So when we add a product inside of carts view, we're also going to want to update our cart inside of the get under here. And then also inside of our products. And this is going to go into the template for detail. So let's try that again with a different one. Charging cable added, successfully added to cart. Notice it says 3 now. If I click on it, there are 3 items in here. If I close this out, 2 items. So now we can actually make this makes a little bit more sense on how this works. And then also that request session stuff makes it so it doesn't flicker. It's still updating the information, but it has a much, much better default. So if we log out or log in and then log out again, no items in the cart. So we go home and we add an item to the cart, gives us 1, refresh, boom, there we go. All right, so that's adding items to the cart and updating the actual cart badge button. If you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, let's keep going.